This is a survey student loan forgiveness recipients. 73% of applicants say they are likely to spend their extra money on non-essential, including vacations, smartphone, drugs, and alcohol. This is why people have a thing about, I would never call it free money. Oh, I guess I just did.
All right, Bill Maher pushing back against Senator Bernie Sanders' support of the Biden administration's student loan forgiveness plan. Let's bring back our panel. Start with Ford this time. Ford, talk about this a little bit. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that a lot of is going back and forth on whether this is a wealth transfer from 87% to the 13% that actually brought up the debt. But legally speaking, putting on my legal hat, I don't see it that way. What I see it more as is the limits on executive power. And the question before the Supreme Court is a very simple one. Did Congress specifically grant this power to do this to the White House? And if they did, then Joe Biden's going to win. I don't think they're going to say that. I think that Joe Biden, the Biden administration, is going to lose. But when we talk about wealth transfer, that's under the fairness doctrine. That may come in, but this is really all about the limits of executive power.
Brian, what do you think?
Spot on, Ford. Yes, it is. The president does not have the power to do this, and I don't see Congress giving it up to him either. Even Nancy Pelosi said as much. But clearly this is a wealth transfer. I mean, I paid my student loans. I'll be paying my other kids' student loans. I'm going to be paying even more. And people that haven't gone to college are going to be paying student loans for people who sign for a loan and don't understand what that means. Where are these people going in life?
Yeah, and Melanie, you're an educator, so I want to address what's going on in colleges, not just because I have two kids in college right now, but the tuition now is totally out of sync with even inflation. And the amount of money people pay now for an education that frankly isn't even better than it was 50 years ago is enormous. It's exorbitant. And I don't know when we stop focusing on this, which I think is a really bad idea for the reasons that you gentlemen have already mentioned, and start saying to the colleges, knock it off. You don't need any more fancy buildings. You don't need to keep jacking up the prices and tuition and fees and all the rest of this. You need to get back to educating people, and that doesn't cost what you're requiring.
But you know what this is? This is basic economics. You know how we talk about the government infusing money into the economy and it raising the price of things? That's exactly what they did with education. They infuse the market, the education market, which that's what it is. It's not philanthropy, folks. It's a business when it comes to college education. And by the government infusing these programs and infusing all this money into that market, it made the cost go up. That is what happens every time the government does that. It's an inflationary tactic. It will make the cost of goods go up, and they have an extra added incentive because there were no markers. Like with a good government program, assuming there is such a thing, with a good government program, you have checks and balances on these things. You have benchmarks to decide whether or not it's a good idea. And in this case, they have none.
Melanie, to that point,
well,
college has gone up 200% since 1995, and the reason is very simple, and that is because the government is backing these loans and giving them out to anyone who asks for them. That is why we are where we are. We were at $181 billion in 1995, and now we're at $1.7 trillion, and the reason is because the government created this problem.
Exactly.
Yes, and here's the thing: 1.7 trillion into our economy would be a good thing to buy cars and buy houses and contribute to the economy. So there are other ways this money could be spent. Instead, it was spent on these colleges because they know the government's going to back them up. And the problem that I have, Brian, is if you say, no, I'm not going to do that, okay, you just maybe lost your grip on middle class. Because good luck getting there. I'm not saying you can't, but without a college education, it's hard to be there for a lot of people.
Well, I don't know. I don't think you need a college education. There's a lot of opportunity out there for in the crafts and the industries for people to have great livings without loans. And I know people that have done this, plumbers, HVAC. So it can be done. But to your point, Bob, I'd love to get to the bottom of of education. The costs. I mean, these things are going to be funding sabbaticals for professors, you know? That's not what we need. We need an education system that actually teaches.
Oh, I agree with you that there are many ways to have a productive life and a satisfying one and make money and not go to college. But for a lot of people, and we'll end it with you, Melanie, that's the ticket that gets them somewhere. And without it, I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody. There are a certain number of people that aren't going to be able to keep up. That's the game. That's why they're able to say, you got to pay this.
And this is the defense that the government will have, and of course they'll add their standard tagline that it disproportionately affects Black and brown people. So, you have to add that to everything. So, that's going to be the government's argument, I think. And I hate to say that I think they are probably going to win. Anytime you bring race into it, which is why they do it, they're going to win that argument almost every time.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to win this one. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. We'll be talking about this again, I'm sure. Brian Anderson, Melanie, Collette, Ford O'Connell, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.